Hi everybody, it's Linda with Joyful Makes and Finds, and I am back this week with a flip through of actually two coffee journals that I made. One is a little cutie, and then I made another little box journal. I made my first box journal a month or so ago with a Christmas box, and this one is a little Taster's Choice coffee box. So I'm really excited. September is National Coffee Month, and September 29th is National Coffee Day. And every year I like to make coffee journals. I'm a huge coffee fan. In fact, it's afternoon, but I've got my afternoon coffee, and I just really love making these journals. So I want to get into showing them to you. They're each going to come with a little favor, a little packet of coffee and a little piece of coffee flavored candy, as well as a little packet of goodies for completing the journal. So I'm going to move everything aside, and we're going to start with the little cutie. And it is your standard, made from a paper bag and sewn. I used this really yummy brown and black plaid. It's got some rust in it and some cream color in it. And I just used this really pretty doily and a fabric yo-yo and a little vintage button to create the design on the cover. Thought I'd keep it simple. And then I put a little dangle that I made. These were actually, I have earrings just like this in my Etsy shop. These are made from actual coffee beans that my husband drilled holes through, and then these are just threaded onto some leather and tied with a knot. So if you like this design, there are earrings just like this in my shop. So I just took one of the pairs of earrings and created two dangles, one for each of these journals. Alrighty. So I used seam binding for the closure, and the seam binding is attached to, and this also removes, so you can pin it somewhere, put it inside of the journal, kind of do whatever you want with it. I just have it hanging on the seam binding there. But I want to show you that I did not attach the doily. I didn't glue it on. So you certainly can glue it on, or if you can decorate it differently if you'd like, but it is a very simple to just add it to it, and it holds very well. I have been enjoying trying to keep as many options open in my journals as I possibly can so that you can change things around and make them your own. The inside here, I made this little coffee bean fabric pocket, and then I made one of my little shakers with a coffee theme. This is the coffee fairy, and she says, "Wake up." And there's some buttons in there that shake around, and then the back has some paper for writing, and I signed it and dated it. And then I just used some coffee brown cardstock here to create that pocket. This is a really fun original photograph that I added the coffee clutch. They look like they'd be a little coffee clutch. A vintage photo that was part of another piece. Another art piece that I just kind of cut up and I've been using in my journals. This is a digital, and it's called Coffee Drip Fairies. I'll credit any digitals. This is, I think, the only digital I've used in these journals. And then on the back side here, this is actually, this is my sister's digital. So the Coffee Drip Fairies and my sister's digital are I believe the only two that I've used. And then I made a little tag out of the Coffee Drip Fairies, and you can see there's little fairies here and there sitting on these little plants and mushrooms and such. And then there's a little bag here, and I put one of the Coffee Drip Fairies on there, and just placed a blank tag in there for you, and then the bag is a tuck. Okay, some banana banana fiber paper. Sorry, not banana dyed. And then this is from a book from, I think, the 80s. It's what do you call those? Gooseberry Patch or something like that. And the whole book is about coffee. So I just used an entire page. This is about making the perfect cup of coffee. And these are amazing coffee facts. And then some actual coffee dyed paper. And on the back side, I clipped a few sheets of this fun notebook paper. This is an old scrapbook paper that I've had in my stash for years. This is a paint chip, and the name of the paint chip is Coffee Grounds. And I left it plain. You can decorate it. You can do whatever you'd like on there, but you can also just journal on the back of it. And I did some stenciling of coffee beans on the background. This is a little envelope here. It's actually a two-way pocket envelope. Pocket, it's not an envelope, sorry. And I got this, I need coffee. Snoopy's a little frazzled there. And it's a little journal card and then a vintage tally. So this is a two-way pocket. So this opens and the front's a pocket and then behind it is a pocket as well. So I had the little Snoopy in the actual pocket and then this tucked behind it. Okay. And then I have a coloring page. So you can sit and doodle and color on that. Some coffee dyed loose leaf, a little doily. This is some brown mulberry paper, a little paper bag, and inside the paper bag are two little die cut coffee cup tags. I just have them tied together with some satin ribbon. Here is some graph paper, a little short here, and with a little tiny journal card that says, "A brew will see you through." This is a piece of scrapbook paper, and on the back, I made this little, it's a tuck pocket, so it'll hold something wider if you want to put something wider in there. And then I created a tag, our journal card, out of this old advertisement for Maxwell House Coffee, the Good to the Last Drop. I remember the Good to the Last Drop campaign when I was a kid, seeing those commercials on television. And then I put a little tab here with some vintage eyelet. And then this is the center of the signature, and it's just some very vintage music paper, and I reinforced the inside with some coffee bean washi tape. And then I beaded, of course, as I always do, I beaded the signature ties, and I used some really pretty coffee colored beads and a little silver coffee bean charm at the bottom. If you can see that, the little coffee bean and the beads. Okay, I'm gonna pull you down a little bit. And a little belly band here with a little fabric and a button, and another vintage advertisement that I made into a little journal card. My mom had one of these electric percolators that looked exactly like that, and I remember she would just take it out on Christmas, or if she was having a baby shower or something like that, when a lot of people were going to be there. But that is a fond memory of my childhood. Okay, and these are the back sides. And then I made another handmade, I took an empty vintage button card and I found some buttons that reminded me of coffee and with my vintage buttons, and I sewed them on there. Just a fun little addition. And then a little paper clip that I added a little side tab to. And then inside of here is not a tea bag, but some instant coffee. Okay. And then this just goes Sorry for the reaching. Whoops. Okay, one more try and then we'll put it back together off camera. Yep, we'll put it back together off camera. Because I do like to bumble with paper clips when I make videos. Okay. And then here's the back side of that coloring page. And on the back here, I made this adorable journaling card from this cute little vintage image. And I used a piece of a time card to make this tuck that opens up for journaling. So it is a tuck. Okay, and then the back side of this paper here, I put yet another paint chip journaling card, and this one is called Coffee House. Okay. And then these cute kids, let me get into the center. I scoot these around. So this is a fold out, double fold out with 2 envelopes. This is the first large envelope, and I just put some coffee stationery, piece of coffee stationery in here. You can journal back here. You can create pockets. You can do whatever you'd like with all of this blank space. Plenty of room for more. And then I stenciled here, and then this flip out envelope, I put a little fun refrigerator magnet that I made, and it says, without coffee, there would be darkness and chaos. I just love that. So there's another little gift. I love to tuck little surprise gifts into my journals. So the envelopes create a tuck spot on the back. And in this piece, I just put some journaling paper that is an image, botanical image of the coffee plant. And then you can journal on the back. The back side of the Gooseberry Patch Coffee book. Let me get my hands out of the way. I apologize. This is the back side of my sister's digital, and there's another little tab, fabric tab there. And then this is the coffee drip Fairies. There's several of them hidden here in this little page. And then this back one has a tag. I have made a version of this tag. This is the 3rd year or the 4th year that I've made coffee junk journals in September, and I've made this a version of this tag because it's one of my favorites. So it's these dapper gentlemen here, and this says, looking for Mr. Right, nah. Mr. Wonderful, nah. Mr. Coffee. I back the back so you could journal on it if you'd like. And then I just created this little short pocket here. Oops, looks like I forgot to glue it down. How about that? There's always something. So I will glue this down. But inside, I just tucked a bookmark that you can use while you're journaling, and it's an old coffee advertisement. So this will be glued on. Okay. And then in the back pocket is a little packet that has offshoots and buttons and some more coffee fairies and some little pieces that didn't make it into the journal that you can play with and use to further decorate. And this is that big pocket that is in these little Cutie paper bag journals, because it is the opening of the paper bag. Okay, so I promise, glue that in. Okay, so this is Little Cutie Coffee Journal for 2025. There's only one. So I suggest, if you're interested, head on over to my Etsy shop, Joyful Makes and Finds. There is a link right to this journal in the description box. And there is it. Now I want to show you, oh, I forgot to put the little dangle back on because I think it makes it extra cute. Okay. And again, those are real coffee beans, which I love. I've got the camera so close to get you a close-up, so I'm probably out of frame quite a bit. Okay, so now let's look at the little journal that I made. This was kind of a bonus. I have a little packet of stuff for coffee journals, and when I got that packet out to create my coffee journal, I found this little Taster's Choice box. So I was like, oh, I need to make another little box journal because they are so much fun. So what I did was I just cut the box so that it created a journal. Cut the ends and the side, one end and both ends here, and then just open the side of the box. And I covered it with lace. You can see the stitching here. This one has 2 signatures. I decorated the front with some vintage buttons. I made put another one of those earring dangles on the front, beaded the signature ties, and I used some fun jute for the ties. I think it looks really rustic and fun, like coffee. Has a coffee vibe. And it can, of course, be changed. There's eyelets on this one, and it's just a simple slip knot, so you could put whatever you wanted. And I did decorate the edges with some rickrack. You can see the rickrack kind of peeking over the edge, creating this little scalloped look. Okay, so I used the same sweet little coffee bean fabric for a pocket on this one, and I created a little teeny tiny shaker for this. And signed the back, and it's got a little coffee fairy. And this date says September 23rd of 12. This little label. So fun. I have such a good time making those little button shakers. This is some Tim Holtz fabric. I probably should let you know the dimensions on this if I can get a hold of a ruler. I apologize. I believe it's about 3 inches by about 6 inches, or 5.5 by 3-ish. So smaller than this one, which is a little over 6 inches by 4 3/4, almost 5 inches. So you can see kind of the difference in the sizes, one on top of the other. I apologize. I moved my little carousel of tools off the, oh, no, we already went through that. So sorry. I'm trying to hurry because I have to go pick up my grandson from preschool. And if I try to hurry, it's kind of one of those Murphy's Law things that I tend to slow myself down making mistakes. Tim Holtz paper. That's where we were. Tim Holtz paper. And then there's an uptuck here. And this is one of my favorite little coffee quotes. It says, "A poem for mornings. Coffee, 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 coffee. Everyone shut up. Coffee." Not very nice, but I think it's funny. A little bit of snark in this journal. Some more coffee dyed, loose leaf coffee dyed paper. A lot of the same papers, of course, are in this book as in the other. Here's a little miniature version of the coffee drip fairies, and you can kind of see them scattered throughout the page there. Here's a little, this is so cute. Look at her, isn't she great? This little image I made into a little tuck, and there's a little tally there folded in half. I used a little tiny portion of that Gooseberry Patch book for this one. Did some stenciling, have a few short pages. This is just a paper bag or packaging paper, which I thought looked great in there. Some music blank music paper. And then I used this fun image for the center of the first signature. And of course, I beaded the signature ties with some coffee beads, coffee colors, and there's a coffee charm on the bottom. Lots of room for journaling, note keeping, writing quotes about coffee. This would be a fun little gift for a coffee lover. And then here's kind of a matching guy with the great big cup. I love him. And inside, I just tucked one of the little coffee papers. Cute little coffee fairies. Whoops. Let's get back in the center. There we go. Mulberry paper, coffee dyed paper. Okay, and here's another little bit of coffee snarkiness. Coffee, if you're not shaking, you need another cup. This is in between the two signatures. This is Tim Holtz paper as well here. Little belly band. And in the belly band, I tucked a piece of the coffee stationery. And here is a side tuck, and it says, "Hello, darkness, my old friend." I love this one. I actually have this as a refrigerator magnet on my refrigerator. Whoops. Okay. The coffee page from the Gooseberry book. This is an actual paper bag that I have sewn into the signature. And a little tag in there says, "Grab life by the beans." And then I made a little tag. I made a little cluster here. And this little thing says, "Drink coffee and create," which is what I like to do. It's a little short page there. This is the center of the second signature, and it's got the little coffee drip fairies there. And then the back sides of all the little pages. Here's one of my favorite coffee ladies. This is the back side of the paper bag. And I just made a bookmark and tucked it into this little tuck here that's created by the flap of the paper bag. And this fun advertisement for Go Go Mojo, 100% mod coffee, peace, love, and caffeine. Feeling groovy since 1964. Really fun. Okay. All right, and then this last page is a sideways belly band, and it's got two tags. May the coffee be with you, but first, coffee. And then in the back pocket is just a pretty coordinating paper that I made a blank tag for journaling and put a little topper with a vintage button. And then this is the back of the journal, the front of the journal. This one is also listed in my Etsy shop, and there is a list to that journal as well, a list to both of these. And again, they each come with a little coffee treat, as well as the little packet. This is the little packet that goes with the box journal. It's very similar to the other one. I just haven't closed it up yet. So that'll go with this as well. So you get lots of little fun goodies. I want to show you one last thing. I'm so excited. I was wanting to make something fun for my coffee, for my shop, coffee related, and I decided to make these cute little ornaments. They are, I'll move this aside, they are the tiniest little coffee cup. They have coffee beans in the shape of a heart. I tied some jute around them. I made a couple of little dangles. There's a coffee bean charm and a little beaded charm. in the lid, I made a little handle with this fun gingham ribbon, and then the lid comes off. It stays on really well, but it also comes off, and inside there's about 6 pieces of the Coffee Delight hard candy. So these are, I made a bunch of these, and they are ready to go in my Etsy shop, and they will make fun little Christmas ornaments, or they're not Christmassy, so you could give it any time to someone who loves coffee, or just treat yourself to one. Or they could also be adorable for Christmas, maybe given with a Starbucks gift card or something like that. So these are in my Etsy shop as well, and as I said, I made a bunch of them. So these were really fun. So celebrating coffee this week with coffee cup ornaments and coffee journals. And after this week, I will start on Halloween journals, which I am super excited about. I am all ready to get started on Halloween. So I will be making little cuties, again, one every week for the next several weeks. And I guess that's really all I have for you today. But leave me a like, leave me a comment, let me know if you're a coffee drinker. Subscribe to my channel if you have a minute. And I guess that's it for now. Please know how much I appreciate the time you spend with me, and I hope you have a wonderful day. See you later. Bye-bye.